The Zephyrus G14 is arguably the best all-round laptop of 2025. It's built incredibly well and has a lot of power for this little size. But so far I've only reviewed the RTX 5070Ti model, which is a bit on the expensive side. So today I finally got the cheapest entry-level model with the RTX 5060. So is this base model simply a better deal, or is that 5070Ti the sweet spot? Well, let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, these two look identical, right? And for the most part, they are. I mean, they are the same laptops. But the 5070Ti model actually has this bump on the bottom to house a more beefy cooling system. And as you can see, the 5060 model does not have this. It reuses last year's 2024 chassis, which is ever so slightly thinner. All 5070Ti and up models get this beefier system with 2 fans, while all 5070 and below models get this thinner cooler, but with 3 fans. Because of that beefier cooling system, the 5070Ti G14 also weighs a tiny bit more than the 5060 model. But these thickness and weight increases are downright invisible in normal use. You're not gonna feel the difference. The main difference here is of course their specs. Obviously they have different GPUs, but some lower spec Zephyrus G14s also have a different processor, the Ryzen 9 270. And that might make a difference. The higher tier HX 370 has 4 more cores, more threads, and also a more powerful integrated GPU. This isn't the case on every low-spec model though. I have seen RTX 5070 and 5060 G14s with that faster HX 370 chip. There are lower spec models with 16GB and 32GB of RAM as well, but that really depends on your region. Oh, and what some people don't mention is that the lower spec G14s also have lower power limits for their GPUs. This is probably because of that better cooling system on the high-end models. More power means more heat, so it needs a beefier cooler. Now, other than that little bump on the bottom and the obviously different specs, these two laptops are identical. So I'm not going to compare everything else, like their speakers or display, like I do in normal reviews. Of course, they both also have every option available in G-Helper, so you can set custom power limits for the CPU, set overclocks for the GPU, and also put an undervolt on the CPU. But like I said earlier, the 5060 model has 3 fans, so you've got 1 extra fan curve you can customize. But of course what we're all here for is their difference in performance. How much worse does the 5060 model perform, and does that CPU make any difference? Well, in Cinebench R23, we can see that the HX 370 is quite a bit faster than the Ryzen 9 270. It's basically 1 generation ahead when we compare it to similar laptops. Now I'm gonna tell you a secret here. Remember the 2024 Zephyrus G14 with that Ryzen 9 8945HS? Well, this Ryzen 9 270 is literally just a rebranded version of that CPU. And you can see that in performance. This thing just essentially has last year's G14 processor with a fancy new name. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, that chip performed very well, and it was still the best gaming laptop of 2024 in my opinion. Now in 3D Mark TimeSpy, obviously an RTX 5070Ti is faster than a 5060. But with these tight power limits, they're really not that far off from each other. And this 5060 actually outperforms last year's top spec 4070 G14, which is quite impressive and interesting for if you're looking to upgrade. But let's be real, these are all just numbers. These things are gaming laptops, so let's see how they compare in some actual games.
You'll never take me down. What did you do, man? No!
Alright, we saw some really interesting numbers here. Obviously, an RTX 5070 Ti will outperform a 5060. I know, crazy, right? But the 5060 G14 still had very respectable performance. Mind you, I ran every game at its native resolution of 1800p, which is very high res. And like I've said in previous videos, you can always put some settings lower or even set the resolution to 1200p. I mean, 1200p at 14 inches still looks very good. That slower CPU on the 5060 G14 does not really make a difference, unless we're looking at very CPU intensive games. And even then, the difference in performance is minimal. My point being, both of them can run every game just fine. A 5060 can still run every game with ease. However, that 8GB of VRAM on the 5060 might become a problem in the future. Now, the 5070 Ti G14 is more power intensive, but it also has a more powerful cooling solution. So which one has higher temperatures, and which one makes more fan noise? Well, in heavy games, they actually have almost identical temperature numbers. Their CPUs max out at around 90 degrees, while their GPUs at around 85 degrees, which is on the warm side, but not too bad. Keep in mind that these are very powerful components shoved into this tiny little chassis. I mean, you can set power limits all you want, but you can't change thermodynamics. And as for fan noise, yeah, they're about the same. Of course, you can just set custom fan curves in G-Helper. So if this is too loud for you, you can just make it a bit quieter. Now, what I'm most interested in between these two is their battery life. Because the HX 370 G14 had one of the longest battery lives on a gaming laptop. So if you buy a cheaper model, do you still get that battery life? Well, I tested their battery life in two scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use test, I played a YouTube video until their batteries died, with their displays at 80% brightness, at 60 Hz, and with their dedicated GPU turned off. And I am very happy to say that they both have just as amazing battery life. The Ryzen 9 270 is a little less power efficient than the HX 370, so it does last an hour shorter. But if you put your brightness even a little bit lower, you can make that number even longer. In the gaming test, I played Battlefield 1 until their batteries died with the same settings as before. And like I showed in very deep detail in my last video, gaming laptops are just very limited when they're playing games on battery. They perform a lot worse and don't even last that long. So if you want to play games on battery, get a gaming handheld PC. And now for the most important part, pricing. The biggest reason I've seen people ask for a 5060 review is because the 5070 Ti model is just way too expensive. And people want to see how much worse it gets if you spend a lot less. Because the RTX 5070 Ti G14 starts at around $2,500, which is quite a lot for a gaming laptop. But that's simply the price you have to pay for such a small and powerful device. But the RTX 5060 G14 is a whole lot cheaper than that. I'd actually almost say it's downright affordable. The in-between option of a 5070 G14 is here as well, and just like its performance, it sits right between these two. Which brings us to our conclusion. Which one of these should you get? The 5070 Ti G14 or the 5060 G14? Well, of course, it all depends on how much you want to spend, and how fast you want your games to run. The 5070 Ti performs roughly 30 to 40% better than the 5060 G14, and that is a huge difference. The 5070 Ti can straight up comfortably play every new game at its native resolution of 1800p, which is very sharp. But on the 5060 G14, you do have to lower some settings or run them at a lower resolution. But if that's perfectly fine for you, the 5060 is obviously a way better deal, because you're still getting the best all-around gaming laptop of 2025. It's got the most beautiful display you can get at this size, the best of the best speakers, a great keyboard and touchpad, great customizable software, and MacBook level build quality. Yes, performance might be a little worse, but for $1,700 to $1,800 with great battery life on top of that, you really don't see me complaining. And I've seen these things go for a lot lower in the USA, so stay on the lookout for deals. So are you on a budget, or do you just not play many games? Then the 5060 G14 is the perfect choice. But do you want that extra performance, and can you spare the money? Then you really won't be disappointed with the 5070 Ti G14. Either way, you're gonna love both of them. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Disco Volante, Daniel, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Toasted, Eric the Rad, Wesley Rhodes, Michael, Ghost Data, Anugadar, Abdullah, and Ravi. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.